Oh, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us early. You won't be joining us for very long, unfortunately, for you, but this is a call of the meeting to order before an executive session, which was posted from 6, but because I'm a Luddite, and it's still getting a little feedback, but tonight's feedback's kind of more pleasant. It makes it,
There it went.
right? Yeah, it makes it a little different. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance and then a little vote to get out to executive session. So with that, please join me in Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So executive session, before I forget, I imagine that I have to do it today, right now, and I'll do it again later, but this meeting is held live, but it's also held via Zoom in recognition of the current state of the pandemic and Mass General laws, et cetera, et cetera. So there you go. That's my open meeting pitch, right? Yep. Governor Baker, standing orders, et cetera. Join us via Zoom, NCTV, YouTube, or live. Many options, but unfortunately then we're gonna leave. So executive session, the first session that we have, I've been credibly informed by Blythe that I'm gonna read the next piece in bold.
The move paragraph.
Oh, I'm just doing the move?
Yes,
I can skip.
encompasses the first paragraph.
Okay, so I'm starting at A, executive.
Yes,
All right.
move that.
Yep, yeah. So the executive session, I don't need to read this, but I'm going to. Under Mass General Laws, this was my yada yada, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss collective bargaining with both the Norfolk Highway Department employees and municipal clerical employees, both represented by Local 301, AFL, CIO, CLC, insofar as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the public body. Therefore, I move that the board enter into an executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss collective bargaining with both the Norfolk Highway Department employees and Norfolk Municipal Clerical employees, both represented by Local 301, AFL, CIO, CLC, insofar as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the public body, and invite Scott Bragnon, Todd Lidmark, Blair Crane, Blythe Robinson,
Amanda Johans.
and Amanda Johans to participate. The board will return to open session at the conclusion of the second executive session. Spoiler alert, there is a second executive session. Chair states that a public meeting would have a detrimental effect on the negotiation position of the body. Therefore, I'm going to poll the board individually. Anita Mecklenburg, how vote you?
Aye.
Carolyn Vantine also votes aye. With one not yet present, it is, the ayes have it. And there we go, executive session. Do I need to push any other button? is a little more, and, oh, look, there we are. The shock on my face is my signal. Like, look, we're live right there on the television. Cindy on the Brady Bunch. We're back. So thanks everyone for joining us. Part 2 of tonight's exciting Board of Selectmen meeting, the regular session. And first thing in the regular session, if I'm not mistaken, is COVID-19 update.
Sure. So, we're continuing to put ups on the website. We moved them a couple weeks ago over to the Board of Health's page. But the update that Mr. Tom Gilbert had been providing, he's been providing a little more often with the uptick in cases that we've had. If you were to look at it, you would note that we reached hopefully our last peak in late July, and we have been coming down the last 3 weeks. The number of new cases has been smaller. In this last week, it was 4 new cases for a total of 1,054, and the incident rate is 6.9%. We were leading the county, and we are thankfully no longer doing so. So that's good news, and we're certainly hoping that it continues to drop. The vaccination rate is for women, which is the better standard to look at, because with the prison population, it throws off the actual male vaccination rate in Norfolk is just under 78%. Is what I read from his last update. Though Kevin may have a different take on that than I do, but overall, it is a good rate. It's as high as we would like it to be. We hope more people consider the vaccination, but overall, like I said, hopefully we're going to get back down to a rate that's overall of infections that's not going up again. I think we're just experiencing our share of what's going on in the larger communities and in the country. Massachusetts is doing better than some other states, but certainly the fact that it has gone up is concerning. I'm sure everyone's been keeping their eye on what's happening with school starting. The Norfolk schools have a meeting tomorrow night. They're going to be talking about their plan, and I actually had not had a chance to talk to the superintendent and find out whether whatever is happening at the state's perspective about masks or not in school and how that's changing are going to impact their approach. But it will be on their docket tomorrow, and they'll be releasing that information to everybody at their meeting.
Is before I open it for other questions, when you say the women versus men, I understand about the prison population. Is it of vaccinable age, which I know may not actually be a word, but in other words, is that of all of the people who could be vaccinated? Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
In other words, they're not taking people who are under 12 in their percentage.
Correct.
But does that number also include people who cannot be vaccinated?
Because they maybe have a condition that
Correct.
I
Probably
wouldn't
not, right?
think so. I don't know how they would how they would factor that in.
I have no idea, but I just wonder if that's is it a statistical 100 even possible because of the percentage? I just wasn't sure if you knew.
Good question. I'm go with
Every once in a
no.
while I had them. That was the only question that I had. Kevin?
So I think it was a week ago, we started diving in pretty deeply into the percentages and how we're doing not only as a community but also as a region. And one of the interesting things that stuck out to me was we are doing unbelievably well in terms of the vaccination rates for children who are eligible from 12 to 15 and then 15 to 19. I think we're above 90% as a community. And then if you look at the other end of that spectrum, adults over 60 years old, I think we're also either close to or above 90%. But it's from 20 to 60, and even females 20 to 60, I believe that we were 70-something%.
Right.
Males 20 to 60 is 53%. And so our mind first went to, okay, well, it must be the prison, right? And then I thought that we had heard back from the prison saying, oh no, we're close to 80% vaccinated with no current cases, was the feedback that we got.
Right.
So that doesn't add up, right?
No, it
There's
doesn't.
something missing there that is really kind of driving me crazy.
Yes. I wish I had an answer.
I don't have an answer that I'm going to say on a public microphone. but it's just me, and
Yeah,
man
so-
flu comes to mind.
So people have asked about masks in town hall and
Inoculations,
town buildings.
That kind of thing is what I was thinking of, but.
You know, because our rate's coming back down again, and you know, when at first everything happened, and there were so many cases, and it wasn't a vaccine, it was scary and required for a while, and then really important. You know, with 4 new cases a week, and where we think our vaccination rates are, you know, I want people to feel comfortable in our buildings, and encourage people to wear masks if they want to, and tell people who, you know, if they're not vaccinated, hopefully they're being straight about that and wearing a mask. But we haven't reached the point of you must wear one again. So, but obviously, if you have any feedback about that or thoughts about that, I'd love to hear that.
Do you have any questions or anything?
No, I guess it's hard to know where that line is, right? The line is, I know for myself, I was not masking, and now when I go to the store, I mask again.
Sure.
Or I didn't before, and so I don't know the magic number.
Yeah, I mean, in this building, and it's really the same for all of our buildings, you know, we still have the PPE, we still have the plexiglass, we still have, in most of our buildings, we don't have people working very close and sitting next to each other, so we have the opportunity to be safe overall. So that's our standard, that's our course right now.
Yep.
Unless you see a male aged 20 to 60 walk in.
Then
It's
you
flip of the
know.
coin.
Okay,
Rough.
thank you.
Anything else on COVID?
No.
So I guess that brings us to our public comment period. For the 0 people who aren't aware, public comment is where folks at home, if they're on Zoom or in the audience, can speak on any topic that touches on something that the Board of Select people would have anything to do with, not just any topic at all, for no more than, or glass half full, up to 3 minutes. And because of open meeting law, it is unlikely that there would be a response, but we're certainly taking notes, and if it's something that we think should be followed up on in a future meeting, or if somebody can be directed to assist, then they certainly will be. So with that said, I will start with the folks in the room. Does anyone have a comment that they would like to make? So surprising. Come on up. Got it written down and everything, you timed it, I betcha.
Ernie Alex, 40 North Street. Has to be comment, can't be a question.
Could be either, but we just can't. So the issue, and I don't mean to end up with a back and forth, but as you know, that the issue is if it's a question about something that's happening tonight, we may take the question now, table it till later, and then answer it.
Okay,
But if otherwise, we might just be like, well, that's a great question, Mr. Alex, I'm writing it down, because we can't talk about it because
No,
it would
just-
violate.
just a couple of
Yeah, it can be
general-
anything. It can be a song, but
Yeah.
it really has to be something that.
Just a couple of general questions. Money for the fire station, how much is available?
Okay, next question. Like I said, we're not going to answer you. We're going to write them down.
Okay. Is that money encumbered by lawsuits that are going on right now at the police station? Will you be asking for additional funds for the fire station at the meeting? And where are the test borings being done for the proposed new sewer system? And where is the topo map located that might be viewed?
Okay.
I'll save my additional time till next time. Thank
All
you.
right. Oh, can
Banking
you
it.
bank it? That's an
Yeah,
interesting
that's-
question that Mr. Alex just raised.
Taking my 9 minutes next meeting.
Well played, Mr. Alex. All right. Anybody else in the audience have a question or panoply of questions or comments? Seeing none, now I'm going to turn my attention. Is there anybody at home? We don't have a lot of viewers tonight, huh?
Yeah,
Start
people-
doing like a cooking show or something up our our game, but no, we don't. So I don't see any questions at home either. All right, well, look at that. Moving right along. Next one, Blythe?
Yes, so the next item on the agenda is to consider the appointment of town council, and I'd like to beg your indulgence to invite Mr. Tom Harrington of Mary's in Harrington up to one of the comfortable chairs, the uncomfortable chairs. So earlier this year, staff embarked on a process to find new town council for a variety of reasons. And just want to give you an overview of that and then introduce Tom and have him give you a short overview about him. Reached out to our town moderator, who, as you know, is works of town municipal law, and got his feedback on firms that would be maybe suitable for Norfolk. Did our own research and invited 3 different firms to come in and meet with staff, and that included myself, Todd Lindmark, our finance director, Rich McCarthy, our town planner, and Bob Bullock, our building commissioner. We picked those 4 people because they're the ones who've been most likely to have involvement in regular need of town council services, so wanted their input to that. We invited Mary's in Harrington, we invited KP Law, and we invited Galvin and Galvin, 3 firms in Massachusetts who primarily focus in this area of law. We interviewed them in early July, and it was a unanimous decision of the 4 of us that Mary's in Harrington best met the needs that we see for Norfolk because of the size and the experience of their firm, the depth of knowledge of each person that would be assigned to our account, glowing references from other communities that they already work for. And full disclosure, I got to know Tom when I was in Wellesley because he's lead town council for them. So a different size community with its own different structure, but as Tom will tell you, they also do work in a number of communities much like us. So I will end there and turn it over to Tom to give you a short overview about himself and the firm. And then we scripted some questions. You can choose to use them or not. They're in your packet or at the board's pleasure.
Good evening. So my name is Tom Harrington. I'm an attorney with Miaris and Harrington, the Harrington of. I live in Wellesley and work in Wellesley. And so about the firm, we are a law firm of 11 lawyers. So we consider ourselves a big small firm or a small medium-sized firm. We think we're just the right size for Norfolk. The kind of the key points about our firm are that we do municipal law all day, every day. So we're not 11 lawyers, 4 of whom practice municipal law. We're 11 lawyers who do municipal law. So we each have kind of our own practice area expertise. So that gives us the ability, if you have a tricky procurement question, to bring in a procurement specialist. If it's a kind of a tough land use question or a tough wetlands question, we have the subject matter expertise on staff to help you with that. And I think that is our biggest strength, is that we have the expertise to handle your tough problems, but we're not so big that you're not going to know our faces. You're going to see more or less the same faces over and over again. And the way we practice is, as lead counsel, I would serve kind of as the Norfolk expert. So while we have everyone with subject matter expertise, I'm the client expert. So I know or will know kind of what's going on in Norfolk, so that if the land use matter has some crossover with a town meeting issue, I'm going to know it, identify it, talk to Bob about it, and give you the best advice that we can on that matter. So I don't really want to take a lot of time blathering on about our firm. I'd love to get into the I'd love to get into the questions, because I think that's a better way to demonstrate kind of who we are and what we do.
One of the other things I'd like to just point out is that one of the things we found particularly exciting is that they have a deep experience in environmental issues, and as you know, we have two rather tricky parcels of land in town that we don't own, but will certainly be challenges for us as we navigate through with those owners what happens next. And it's nice to have some experience in those areas, can help us be best prepared for the town's perspective.
So we do have some particular expertise. We've been called into towns with 21E sites or just kind of complex permitting sites to help them through the process, to work to get those parcels kind of back on the tax rolls and functioning again, within the town concept. We do it for our regular towns too, but it's more and more becoming, as we use up the land, we're now looking at land that's already been used, and we need to figure out creative ways to use it again and use it safely, but use it so it benefits the town.
Could I build on that with a follow-up question? The board's okay with that? I
Oh,
don't know if
yeah,
anyone-
yeah.
So, first of all, thank you for coming tonight. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in dealing with fairly contentious development matters within the community, whether it be with a developer in the town or whether it be with the residents and abutters in the community? Can you tell us about some of those types of experiences that you've had?
Sure. So honestly, those situations happen in every town, right? So there's always the big 40B or kind of the controversial facility, and that controversial facility can be anything from a compressor station in Weymouth, where we represented the city of Weymouth, to a big box store that, is going to dominate downtown. So, and honestly, hopefully you've thought about that before, kind of before the application rolls in, because you want to make sure that your bylaws and supporting regulations are drafted to give your permitting boards the ability to make the right decision for the town. So sometimes, we can be called in too late. Sometimes the bylaw says what the bylaw says, and there's not a lot to do about it. In kind of the proactive model, though, we hope we can get in and think about those things and look at the parcels that you have out there that you might be concerned about, to make sure that we have the protections in place, but also to make sure that we have in place a bylaw that works for the developer, right? So, we can, in a bunch of years ago, we were called in and we were told, we want a freeze time, right? So, we're Norman Rockwell. We don't want anything to change. We want you to put the bylaws in place that lock us in right now, and what you see is what you see, and we're not going to get anything new. And we did that, but that was kind of a particular model for that particular town. And I think the more likely model is we want to protect, but we also need to work with the development community to redevelop these parcels. So it's having the discussions ahead of time to understand what the town might like to see and what would be acceptable to the town, and then putting it in place. So assuming all that's done, now you've got the you've got the permit before the board, and you have to deal with kind of perhaps a vociferous citizens group and their higher representation. It could be a friendly developer, it could be a hostile developer. You need to read that. But at that point, I think we kind of slide into a partnership with the permitting board, so that what we want, whatever their decision to be, we want that to be a defensible decision. So we want to help them get the evidence they need to support the decision they make. And so once that decision is made, we can then defend it. It's not going to get overturned because they, missed a deadline or wrote a decision that's too short, or doesn't kind of encompass what the bylaw wants it to encompass. And full disclosure, we took the opportunity to read a number of your decisions as we were preparing for the first round of interviews with Blythe and Rich McCarthy, and we thought they're very well written. Your planning department knows what they're doing. They write a good decision. I think we can support that, but I'm also happy to say that coming in, we think you've got a strong team in place.
Great, thank you.
I have a follow-up question from what you said, just sort of diving off of Kevin's question when you're talking about the fact that often, or not often, you've indicated that sometimes you're called in too late, that the issue is that the bylaw that is being relied upon is ineffective or problematic. And my question is part of what you do or part of what you can do, I appreciate that you read, that you did the homework before the first round of interviews, but is it obviously billable? I'm an attorney, I'm not saying no, but I'm not looking for a loss leader here, but is it something that you can do to do an analysis of certain areas? You know, Kevin mentioned an area that maybe is something that sometimes engenders stress within the community.
Sure.
But take a look at the bylaws and say, because I have a sense of, and say what isn't potentially problematic with them. Because I will say that I have a sense, it may not be completely fair, but because obviously, typically you only learn of a problem when it gets this far. And so there may be like 11 things that are working swimmingly and only just that one that isn't. But I have a sense that to a degree, when we have dealt with problematic bylaws such that then all of a sudden being brought before town meeting to make those amendments, it's not because someone was sitting around with a copy of the bylaws open on their lap on a Saturday afternoon to see what else they should change. It's because all hell is broken loose and somebody has misread them and or misapplied them or applied them correctly, but they're garbage. Not that ours are. This is another town completely.
Yep, I know the town you're talking about.
Right, exactly, you do. Is that something that you can do just sort of prophylactically to assist?
Absolutely, and so
It's a big word.
if you were to select us town council, so one of the things that we talked with Blythe about, and the way we introduce ourselves to the town and get ourselves up to speed is we do what we like to call a listening tour. So in that respect, we would schedule meetings, and we'd like to do this all in kind of a 4 to 6 week time frame, but we want to schedule meetings with all your permitting boards. And we want to go and we want to talk to them. And so the conversation we want to have with them is what's working for you, what's not working for you. Do you have all the information you need? So what I mean by that is it can be as simple as when you come to your meeting, do you have your zoning bylaw with you? Do you have your regulations with you? Are you a member of your umbrella organization so that you're getting the training you need? Is there training that we can provide to you to help you? Running a special permit hearing is not necessarily a simple matter. There's skills involved, and so we want to know kind of what they identify as their issues. We'll also talk to, so I guess in our parlance, we divide it into daytime government and nighttime government. So the listening tours with nighttime government, we want to meet with the boards and commissions, but we also want to talk with Blythe and Rich and find out from their perspective what's working, what's not working. Let's identify that and let's think about how we can fix it. So I won't say that I can necessarily sit there and read your bylaw and say, aha, I see the problem, unless it's obvious. But I do think I can have conversations with both your daytime government and your nighttime government and understand kind of where they identify the problems and fix those problems, or at least offer proposed solutions.
Yeah, we've talked with Rich and Bob about the fact that our planning board regulations should probably be updated and brought to 2021 so that when they're making decisions, that the outcome is going to be good with what a developer say is going to build or whatever is being permitted. And with the ZBA being fairly young in their tenure with new people, they probably deserve a little more training and a little more guidance so they can be continuing to write good decisions, or write them differently if they haven't been doing it in a way that is probably best for the community, and spend some time on that.
I have a completely different question. I feel like I watched your interview. Thank you, cable TV, for that. And we have a mid-sized firm, highly recommended. And do you have systems in place in your firm to measure or keep track of your capacity in terms of how many towns you take on or how many towns you go to in the future?
So Right now, we represent 8 towns. So in the history of the firm, going back to 1988, we've never had more towns than attorneys, and we think that's kind of the bellwether mark. We think that's where it gets dangerous, or that's where you have to switch the model. And that, kind of switching the model is the packaged response. You got a question, we got an answer for that, here's the answer. We work very hard not to do that for a couple of reasons. One, we can all Google at this point, and, I find some of the board members are some of the most talented Googlers I've ever seen. I mean, they know every statute. And they can read the statute, I can read the statute, we can talk about what it means, but I don't want to just give them a statutory cite. I want to find out what they want to do. Why are you asking about Section 12? Tell me what your goal is. Tell me what we're after, because honestly, that's the fun part for us. The fun part is working with local government to get them where they want to go. It's not just answering, you need to publish twice a week or, in 2 successive weeks, blah, blah, blah. That answer is important, but the fun part is the next answer. What do you want to do, and how can we help you get there? So I guess, but to go back to your question, that's kind of our limit. I think the model of our firm is actually to be supportive of, we have a lot of younger people raising their families. We want to make sure we're giving them the time to do that. So our client load is a little lighter than some other firms.
Thank you.
To build on that question, where does Norfolk fall in terms of size of community, type of community with the other communities that you assist?
So we represent about right in the middle. The biggest community we represent, I think, is Reading. So kind of in the, high 20s to low 30s. Reading, Needham, and Wellesley. Kind of in the 10,000 range would be Littleton. I'm going to forget someone. Hopkinton started out as a 10. They're a little bit bigger now. Carlisle's about 5. Templeton is about 7. And Stockbridge is about 3,000.
I bet I know which one said they weren't going to move. They didn't want to freeze their. Just saying. I don't have any questions. Do you have any more?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
No, I don't have any more questions. I trust the process.
I do too. What do we do now, Blythe?
We have a motion for you.
Oh, goodness, she always has a motion.
I'll take it, Kevin. I move that the board vote to appoint Myers and Harrington as town council for the town of Norfolk.
Do I have a second? Those in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous.
Thank you
Nice to
thank you
meet
very much.
Thank you so much for
Look forward
coming
to
in.
working together.
Us too. I really appreciate it, and we are going to work hard to do a good job for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think the best thing I can do now is get out of your way.
All right, next, Blythe?
So next item is to consider a vote to vacate a final judgment in a tax lien foreclosure regarding a property at 22 Winterberry Way. As background for this, are you Attorney Gillis? So it's a fairly detailed overview of this in your packet. For about a period of 10 years, the town has been pursuing the owner of this property for non-payment or of taxes. It resulted in a foreclosure filing, and in late June of this year, the land court awarded the property to the town for that. It is a condominium in River's Edge, if you're not familiar. So we took ownership of it. We quickly moved to insure the property and to send notice that the property should be vacated. We were then reached out to then I understand Mr. Attorney Gillis reached out to us and through our tax title attorney, David Capola, and indicated that the owner would like to redeem the property. And under Mass law, they have the right to redeem the property if they can bring it current before the town can actually then go and sell it, up for, say, a foreclosure auction like we did a year ago. So in your packet is a copy of a cashier's check for just under $130,000, and that represents the unpaid taxes, the penalties and interest, our legal fees, our court costs, costs to insure the property, all the costs that we've had so far. And Attorney Gillis is here to answer any questions you have and make the owner's case, I think, I won't speak for him, for why you should do that. I will just add that once it was, went to land court and it was decided there, that takes it out of the hands of the treasurer. The treasurer, Anne Marie, has no role in a decision of this. The board can vote to redeem it. The board can vote not to redeem it. And then if you voted against it, they have the right to go to court and ask the judge to make a different decision. So I will stop there. Well, I will tell you that it's council's recommendation that you do vote to redeem it. We could talk about that if you'd like to, but I'll leave it back to you, Cece, and how you want to proceed.
So I'll open it up to Attorney Gillis at first, and then ask some questions, and then when he can have a seat and we can chit chat about it. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
So, take it away.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for your time. I know that it's precious, and I'll try to be brief. I would like to give you a brief history on the house. My client was here today. He's in the back row there. His parents, he lived in Boston. His parents always wanted to move out of the city. They bought here in Norfolk in 1973. He grew up here. He went to school here. Unfortunately, his father passed. His family had to sell the home. They moved back into the city. As he grew older, he was able to start his own family up in New Hampshire with his wife, and they have one daughter. And then he was able to purchase the unit at Village's Edge for his mother in her retirement, who had brought her kids up here and wanted to move back here. So he's never lived in the property. It's always been a property that he owned for the benefit of his family. Unfortunately, his mother passed in 2018. He has a brother who is living there currently. His brother is employed at a local high school. There was a misunderstanding between who was covering the taxes and condo fees. As a result of that misunderstanding, a lawsuit was brought in which the town was also involved regarding the condo fees. Once he got aware of that he was aware of it because he does live in New Hampshire, all of the fees were paid up completely. And there was a misunderstanding because that finished, the stipulation of dismissal was signed on April 6th, which is exactly when he started getting the land court information. So he did not contact our office, which I wish he had, because we would have checked, obviously, the two filings, one in Norfolk, one at the land court, at which time he just, foolishly ignored it because he thought it was the case that had just been dismissed. When he did find out, because we got the eviction notice from his brother, he contacted our office. I contacted Capola and Capola. The actual amount of taxes that's owed is actually only $58,000, but he's willing to pay the full $129,000, which includes, as Blythe had just said, includes a 16% interest on all funds, which it's the first 2 quarters of 2022 are paid in that. It's all up to date. Clearly, now that he's cleared things up with the family, because, like I said, he has never lived in the home, even though he lived here and went to high school here and everything else. There will be no issues going forward. And that's pretty much it. His brother, it would be very difficult. His brother does work at a local high school as a night custodian, but would not be able to financially live on his own if this property is not given back to the family. And with this real estate market right now, he'd pretty much be without a place to live. It would be, I think, unjust under the circumstances where they're willing to pay almost double of the outstanding taxes owed to do that, particularly to a family member who's been there and hopes to be there for the rest of his working days. I would ask that the town accept full payment today of an amount of $129,905.60, which is, like I said, about double what the actual taxes were owed on the property. And it's the check has been delivered to the town 2 weeks ago, in full payment of all of that. And I would ask that you follow the advice of counsel on that, Capola and Capola, and move to vacate. Just so you know, there is an ongoing motion to vacate anyways at the land court, but this would take care of, probably void that and moot it so that we wouldn't have further litigation on this matter.
So I just have a couple questions before I open it to the group. Are you any relation to the landowner?
I am a cousin.
I mean, I know it's Massachusetts, right? Like, so it could be entirely conceivable that there's no relation at all, but just.
Well, we're distant cousins. My father passed 50 years ago, so that side of the family we don't see as often as we should, but I do run into cousins and do work. My office is Gillison, Bykowski, and Newton. We've been there since 1988.
And I know that you were sort of explaining how it happened, that we are, because when I first heard of it, I felt it was somewhat remarkable, right? Because it's almost 11 years without payment, and so is it that the bills were going to the wrong address?
The bills were going primarily to the residents, which he's never lived there, and his understanding that the bills were being taken care of by the people living there, in particular his brother. His brother does have some cognitive issues that complicate it, but which I don't need to get into great detail, but I think that led,
No, I'm not asking you to.
led to some of the problems. He did, I think, get some notices in New Hampshire, which he sent back down here, just assuming that they would take care of it. And as I said, talk about bad timing, these two suits came at the same time, and literally the day that I think Coppola signed the stipulation of dismissal on April 6th was almost exactly when he got the other materials of this. And not being a lawyer, not having any legal training, just assumed it was the same action. So it's sort of a combination of circumstances that all culminated at the same time.
So I guess that sort of dovetails, like I'll sort of say, one of my concerns is I'm mindful of the fact that maybe there's somebody there who now is, maybe on their own wouldn't be necessarily aware that they should be paying these things or forwarding them along and then sort of emphasizing, has that been paid, will you pay? But I also understand that up until 2018, there was actually two somebodies at least, right?
There was, yes.
Yeah, and so my concern going forward, I get it, right? I understand that it's better to leave the people there who have lived there and forego additional litigation versus whatever. But what do we do the next time? Like, how many times how do we assure ourselves, right? Like, that's a long time, that next year it's going to get paid.
Well, I can assure you that it won't happen again. Simply, I mean, it's cost a significant. And this is a gentleman whose daughter's just starting college, and he's got to come up with this type of money, which he has, and he has the ability to, thank goodness. But this is the first he was aware of it, and then he came there with a check. We literally, the judgment was only June 22nd. I just spoke with Coppola mid-July, and we had full payment by the beginning of August. I mean, there is not going to be another issue. He's not going to rely upon his brother. It'll be an automatic payment, and it's just not. And he's paying in advance of 21, first 2 quarters of 22. So you're already, in the positive as that is concerned. So I can't imagine there being any further issues. The issues both arose at the same time because they hadn't been addressed. Now he understands the situation. They're both, like I said, have been addressed, paid in full, much more than was the actual, principal owed. And, it'd be foolish for him to let it happen again because the cost is A, so expensive, and B, the problems with, what it would cause with his own family, for his brother, not to be able to live there would be extraordinary. And I know him well enough, even though they are fairly distant cousins, to know that he would never let that happen.
Well, I mean, I think that sort of, when I was looking at it, and I understand that maybe it wasn't that easy. I'm not making any judgment, but to arrive with a cashier's check and without knowing any of the backstory that certainly now we're getting some of, I was sort of like, so is this just someone who's sitting around waiting for us to chase him? Like, we're a little town. I mean, I understand that that's, like, before you have the folks in the room, we're a little town. We don't have a ton of assets to be chasing people who've decided that they just don't feel like paying. And so my Irish got up, and I was the one who was like, well, let's bring it. I bet you the land court won't mind hearing from me. I get it. I calmed down, but I would be disinclined the next time, and the next time it would only be like $100, $200, right? And I would be like, well, now we've got ourselves a ball game between the amount that the town is out and the amount that we could make if it were to happen again. I just don't know. But I believe you, right? Like, now we know. I know where your office is anyway, even if I don't know where your very distant cousin lives in New Hampshire. So at least we have somebody that we could.
No, you could, I've worked with Capola and Capola before on other matters, fine law firm. If there's ever any issues, I'm sure, which I don't expect. And again, from a financial point of view, it's foolish to have any problems with the town. It's 16% interest guaranteed.
Right,
It's
right.
credit card interest. So he's in finance. He's smart enough to know that the proper thing to do is to keep this up to date, and both for the peace and quiet of his family, as well as, satisfying the town.
Is there a way to have the bills go to where they should be going?
I'm sure we can work that out with Anne Marie. And there's also online payment. You don't need to wait to even mail
Yeah,
it.
you gotta remember, I need 18, unless I can do auto pay, I'll be like, is it September already? So, speaking of which, I do have a water bill I gotta pay. So that was it for questions for me.
I mean, you touched on pretty much all the concerns that I had. Blythe, how many correspondence would you estimate have gone out on this?
I'm sure there's been many
specific case?
correspondences over the years. I don't know if there was an actual payment plan, but I did, when I was speaking with the treasurer, and Anne Marie's only been here 4 years of this period. There were some occasional payments of, very de minimis amounts over the years, but it never got brought current. And, for the town, as the chair mentioned, we had to finally be serious about bringing these to conclusion, whatever the conclusion was going to be. So, we are being more proactive about delinquent accounts than we have in the past, but we certainly hope in a situation like this, that we'll be all set going forward.
I mean, I would hope that'd be the case and be the case as well. However, I would recommend that we maybe keep a closer eye for the first couple of years to ensure that we don't get so far down the road, again, moving forward.
I think there was some reticence on the town in the past because a condo association is a little bit different, and so the town was actually going to be obligated for the condo fees, which is not usually a pond that we swim in, right? We either own property or we don't own it. It doesn't come with those encumbrances. So maybe that was a reason why it wasn't pursued more aggressively in the past, but just to keep our own finances in order, we've had to be more careful about that, which is how we got to this point.
And now we have some facility in these waters, so if anybody else is thinking of not paying their condo taxes, game on. So,
Be happy to call me, and I'd be happy to represent you in the
I know, you've got some facility as well, we're ready.
Nicely done.
Anita, anything?
No, they put their money where their mouth is, and I trust that the wisest thing in the future is to pay it on time, so I trust that that'll happen.
I don't foresee any future problems, and I really appreciate your consideration. I'm sorry we had to take up your time, but really would appreciate your voting in line with council's recommendation.
So there's a very detailed motion in your packet that just whoever reads the motion just needs to insert their own name into the section where that is.
I'm gonna let you, because for whatever reason I have now misplaced my motion.
As provided under MGL Chapter 60, Section 69, I, Kevin Calcutt, hereby move to vacate the final judgment entered on June 22nd, 2021 in Massachusetts Land Court Tax Lien Foreclosure Case Number 20TL000064, Town of Norfolk v. Frederick Gillis, covering the property located at 22 Winterberry Way, Assessors Map 10, Block 32, Lot 822. As a result of payment of $129,905.60 in certified funds made to the town on or about August 18th, 2021. Said amount represents payment of all amounts due to redeem the tax taking covering the property, which include but are not limited to taxes and interest to the date of this meeting on 8/24/2021. All charges and fees associated with the foreclosure case and any costs incurred by the town in the care, custody, and control of the property after the entry of the judgment. The town is in possession of the amount required to redeem. Upon payment to the town of the full redemption amount, the town will take the necessary action to vacate the foreclosure judgment and withdraw the foreclosure case in the Massachusetts Land Court.
Second.
Any discussion? I have none, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
know why Anita was so quick to take that first motion.
I know,
I
she's like, "I'll take
snapped
the
it
one
right
that-"
up. It was
That's what we need, is a good bond
That's
issue, so
right.
someone can read for
Oh,
days.
God. There's gotta be a better mousetrap for that. All right, before we move on to 5, I was thinking 5, like, what's the, would be a place to hear, anything that, people might wanna have regarding committee appointments, but, let's move on to question 5, or whatever, section 5.
Appointments to boards and committees, we have 3 to take care of. First one is that as you know, there was an election earlier in the year, and the associate position moved, person in that position, Mr. Montfort, moved up to a full member of the planning board, so there's an associate position to fill. Gary Sullivan has come forward. As you know, he was on the Beam Committee. He'd like to fill that role, and he has been so voted by the planning board. So it's over to the select board, since it's a joint appointment, to vote to make that happen, firm to end next June. And there are 2 vacancies on the Energy Committee, and there were 2 associate members who'd like to move up to full, and so there's a motion to appoint both of those people, one for a term to end next year and one for 2 years later. And information in your packet about Mr. Sullivan is there. I figure you already know the Energy Committee members, so we didn't include any information for them.
We know Mr. Sullivan too,
I
but
do.
Seeing Mr. Sullivan's name has reminded me, did we add an economic development committee to the request for applicants during this appointment period? Or was that something that we were pushing on till later?
Waiting till we get through the master plan to know kind of where we're headed.
Thank you.
God bless you. I was like, Economic Development Committee?
Not yet. Wait for it.
So, so, from my perspective, does anyone, I don't, is he doesn't need to be here.
Nope, they don't need to be.
Does anyone need to, I mean, I know him, they've already voted for him, I think it's great. He's always volunteering and super into town stuff, and
3 boards now.
I was just
3
thinking
committees.
Kevin's counting.
Wow.
That's a factoid I didn't have.
He's like
Ultra-volunteer.
Kevin Jr.
He's actually, it's gonna be called Gary soon. He's
As-
done more than
well,
I
that's
have.
great. He's just, it's aspirational. I have no comments.
no comments,
None.
other than thank yous.
So, should we go through, well, we might as well just do him first. So, do I have a motion regarding Gary?
It's a nice short one, I'll read it, Kevin. I move that the board vote to appoint Gary Sullivan as an associate member to the planning board for a term ending June 30th, 2022.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now on to the Energy Committee.
I move that the board vote to appoint the following members to the Energy Committee: Charlie Cole for a term ending June 30th, 2022, and Christopher Chand for the term ending June 30th, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments, discussion?
Thank you for your service to the town.
Ditto. Then we'll just vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
So I guess that's it, other than a plug to fill, now we've filled our full positions, and so now get out there and shake the trees for volunteers for the associate positions, correct?
That
There's also
and,
one for the Conservation Commission is
Did I miss
seeking
it?
a member.
thank you.
Oh, because
I
you know
was-
why? Because my thing got screwed up, and so I pulled it out to fix it. I didn't. I did the opposite of fix it. So, all right. That's
Yes,
good.
definitely looking for a Conservation Commission member.
I've been trying to find, I'm not sure, but I've been working on somebody.
Excellent. We would love to meet them.
Is it still called volunteerism if you're like
Twisting their arm.
dragged in? Bribery works. Like I have my thing of chocolates.
I bet a little mini Snickers will go a long way.
I'm pretty excited to finish those next time if there's an opportunity. Section 6.
So in your packet, we have a recommended collective bargaining agreement with the DPW union, represented by the AFL-CIO. The ended in June, and we have spent the spring and part of the summer negotiating a new contract within the financial parameters that the board provided. And that contract is been already ratified by the DPW union. It's actually signed prospectively by them, and we would recommend that the board do the same. I can go into much detail, and Scott Bragdon, our HR director, is also here in case the board has any questions about that settlement, what it means. and any changes to the contract.
I was just making sure, I thought I saw guests, but it looks like they got let in, so. I read the materials. I don't have any questions or comments. Anita, do you have anything that?
Nope.
Nothing like it.
All right, well then I guess we just have a motion.
I move that the board vote to ratify a successor collective bargaining agreement with the Norfolk Highway Department employees as represented by Local 301 AFL-CIO CLC for the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Section 7.
We have in your packet a request to abate a water bill for a family on 15 Worcester Road. This is a simple clerical error where there was a manual read required of the meter, and the person who inputted the information into our billing system typed in the wrong amount of gallons used, and so we overcharged them by $313.47. And so, as you know, one of your roles is water commissioners, so we need your approval to abate that amount for the Mellon family.
That seems pretty straightforward to me. I don't have any questions. Do either of you guys have any questions?
Nope.
No.
It does remind me to maybe not just assume everything on these forms is accurate and just pay it without looking, but, because not so much that people make mistakes, because of course they do, but that, somebody paying attention was able to catch it and,
And we're sorry that it happened.
yep, and we're gonna make it right. So, I have no questions, Kevin?
Nope.
Do I have a motion? Or-
I move that the board vote to abate 2 water bills for Brian E. and Megan H. Mellon, 15 Worcester Road, which totaled $313.47.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous, and we're on to number 8.
So, also in your packet, we have a couple of requests for use of Town Hill. Town Hill is the place to be, it appears, at the moment. We have a request from the Girl Scouts to use it for their annual Kickoff picnic on September 8th, with a rain date the following day. And then we have actually 2 requests by different breweries to use it for pop-up beer and food events with entertainment licenses. And I know that we have Mr. Petter here by electronically, and I think we also have somebody here from 67 Degrees Brewing. Oh, also by Zoom, thank you. So I haven't completely scripted that motion because 67 Degrees Brewing came with an application, first of the 2, and requested 2 Saturdays in September with a rain date on Sunday. After we received that, we received another application from Zealous looking for those 2 Sundays. So when we put this packet together last Thursday, we were kind of in a dilemma over, and kind of kicked it to the board, how would you like to do this? I think I understood from some email traffic late this afternoon that 67 Degrees Brewing is not available to use it on the first weekend they requested, so this may end in an artful conclusion, if it's the board's pleasure. What I will tell you is both applications are in order, all the paperwork, all the forms, insurance. We've run these by our various departments, no issues with police or fire or public works. All of a sudden, my voice got louder.
It did.
Not sure how.
Everything got louder.
Apocryphal. Ooh, it really did.
So,
I don't know if I like that. It went away again.
all
Nope,
of us?
didn't.
Yeah. So, in the Zoom room is Mr. Jeff Petter, who you certainly have met before, and the other gentleman is Mr. Olivier, I guess, from 67 Degrees Brewing. So I don't want to speak for both of them, but that's what I understand of the present situation, and we need to take action on the Girl Scouts and then decide what to do with the requests by the 2 brew houses.
So I think that that's the way to go then, is to deal with the Girl Scouts first, and I know that they're part of the same boat, so, but at least we can talk about them and then move on. And so their kickoff picnic, 5:30 to 7:30, does that run with a rain date? Does that run afoul of any of the brewery
It does not.
All right.
So nobody's serving beer at the Girl Scout event, right?
I do not believe so.
Okay, that's good.
And in terms of their request, is there any issues that you?
There are no issues with either application. Certainly, we've worked with Zealous for a number of events.
Well, I was talking about the Girl Scouts.
Oh, sorry, no issues with their events. Their event.
We're not really concerned. They're,
We're pleased that unlike last year, they can have an event.
oh, there you
Yes.
go. All right, well, I think that's, Kevin, do you have any questions or comments about the Girl Scouts' desire for 2 hours on Town Hill for kick off the
Not-
year
not-
picnic?
Yeah, not if I tried. I'm good.
I bet you could. Rita?
No, none at all.
Oh, yeah, me neither. So, so one down is, I'm gonna open it up to, before we get to, the issue of rain dates, is it correct that 67 degrees is no longer able to use one of their dates?
That is correct. So we will no longer be able to do the 25th of September with a rain date of 26 September. So the only date we're requesting is the 11th September.
Okay, thank you.
And I think
so-
the rain date for that was supposed to be 12 September.
Well, that's what you were looking for a rain date, correct?
Correct.
So then if I, just to break it down to, then the only sort of issue that we need to explore beyond sort of our usual panoply of who's picking up the trash and are we being
They are.
safe and whatever, is how do you handle a situation wherein somebody has asked first in line for a date that doesn't conflict, but that for a rain date that then somebody else later has as their
Correct.
primary date? Have I stated the facts as they are?
You have.
Okay, well, I don't have any questions myself about that. Anita, for the gentleman here, do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions.
I have comments and thoughts, but I don't have questions. Kevin?
Same comments and thoughts, but no questions.
All right, so having no questions for the folks, my comment would be, while I'm mindful that it's nice to have a rain date, that if there's a, this is just my own comment, right? And I could be, somebody could chime in and tell me I'm an idiot and everybody always does rain dates, but that where we can't, if you have someone who is looking for it as their primary date, I would think that in terms of precedence, whoever requests a date for their actual event first is first. So if they were both looking for, and apologies that I'm using they as though you're not sort of euphemistically here on Zoom, but so that they would, in that sort of duel, it would be the company that came in first to ask. But where it's between a rain date and an actual event, in my mind, it would be the actual event that would be priority. Yeah, so that's my thinking, but I'm just one guy. What do you think, Kevin?
I agree. I think that with requests like this, we look at them as primary and secondary. And if somebody were to file a request for a primary use of Town Hill that overlapped with somebody's secondary use who we've already granted their primary date, I think we should honor both primary requests to take precedence ahead of the secondary.
Yours was much more succinctly put than mine.
But then you
But
use
we're-
that word to describe it, and it
I
just
did. I
washes the
trotted it
slate
out. I
clean.
trotted it out. It's got lots of C's. Yes.
So I also recall, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I just want to recall us back when we were trying to set the date for town meeting, and somebody else took a primary over our secondary, and it didn't feel very good. But I was wondering if we could propose, what if we had the September 11th date for One Day Beer, and their rain date could be September 27th?
Or you mean the 26th?
Six.
Because they had two dates originally, September 11th with the 12th, and then
Correct.
September 25th with the 26th. And because they can't do the September 25th,
Yeah, I
they
think the 20th.
they weren't going to use the 26th as their rain date. But you're saying maybe they have as a rain date
A
for their 11th,
compromise.
the 26th.
Yes, or something like that, since they did submit the application
Right.
first.
I mean, if you give, you can actually give each a weekend. Zealous can have the week, which is the date they asked for. Their application came in second, and you could honor the request from 67 Degrees for the 25th, and if it happens to rain, they could have it on the 26th.
But they can't do the
25th.
25th.
It's backwards. He can do September 11th.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, switch. One can have one weekend and one can have the other.
So that might solve this problem, and again, apologies, gentlemen, that we're talking as though you're not here, but what happens if now Joe Doke's kegerific party extravaganza says that they want as their primary date, right? I'm trademarking that when we leave here. As their primary date, the secondary.
You're right, that would be complicating.
I mean, I'm just saying future reference. Like,
Yep,
for now, I think
yeah.
that's a fine resolution, but it may be something where we need to sort of have set
To
in
be clear.
place. So to Anita's point, there aren't hard feelings in the future that people know you've got a rain date, but somebody else could high-hosey your rain date, and you're out of luck. Because I will say, now I'll sort of talk to people as though they are actually here, even though you're on Zoom, and it's incredibly uncomfortable for me. I hate it. I had considered, what if you had sort of dueling breweries if there was a rain date and everybody's on opposite sides? And then Blythe reminded me that there's also music, and I thought, oh, that won't work. That won't work. Because I like Anita, would want to honor or allow everybody to have what it is that they want to have in terms of commerce and getting people out there and all of that. So is it possible, is it Mr. Olivier? Apologies for massacring your last name. It's coming on my screen as Olivier. Is that your
Olivier.
first- Olivier. Is that, so there's been a suggestion of your primary date being the 11th, with the rain date in the event that the 11th is washed out, of the 26th, which was yours. Is that something that would work for you?
I mean, I think we'll find having Zealous have the 12th and kind of waive our rain date of the 12th. I know Jeff pretty well, so there's no hard feelings there.
Well, that was easy. We probably should have asked them that at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, unless the town specifically required that we have a rain date, I'm perfectly fine just going by the 11th as a primary date, and if it rains, Jeff has the secondary date of the 12th. That's perfectly fine.
Oh, so just to, I've kept my mouth closed.
You
but,
could go closer to the mic, or I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, I was interested about the discussion of the rain date. We've had other dates here. We've had no rain dates for any of them. We've actually served in rain.
Well, that was going to be my question, was put on a hat.
I mean, it's preferable to have a rain, but we never had with. Last year we had them, a couple of them. We never used any of them.
You've moved away from the mic again.
This year we did not have any, because I don't know if you remember, the board decided that we could only apply for 4 of them, and that was excluding dates. So we applied for 4, and then we applied for 4. And one of the reasons I hadn't applied to September yet, because we have another event.
Yep. Jeff, can you speak closer to the microphone? We keep losing.
One of the reasons I haven't applied for the separate dates yet was that we actually have a beer garden this Sunday already. But I think if Olivia is fine with us taking the 12th and he's skipping the 25th, then we could just do the 12th and the 26th. I'm not trying to speak for you, but we could do the 12th and the 26th, and he can do the 11th, and everyone's happy. Eventually.
Yeah, perfectly fine doing the 12th. I'll be happy to reach out to Nancy and Judith to see if we can maybe get some dates in September, but something came up and we can't do September, so we're perfectly fine just doing the 11th.
Great. I mean, it does beg a question for the future about, to Anita's point about primary and secondary, but at least having some set system in place so that there isn't hard feelings. And it might be, and I do recollect now that that I'm reminded that last year we did vote to try to essentially to prevent, if my recollection serves, which it probably doesn't, somebody picking like every
Right,
single
which is why
date.
we had limited how many they could apply for.
But maybe part of the conversation when we try to figure out what rules should look like for rain dates and that type of thing would also be something where maybe I may be over engineering, but that if there's dates that haven't been selected by a particular time, that they can be opened up or sort of released to people to say, hey, if you really want X, Y, a date in October, you have to submit by September 15th. If you don't, you may get it, or it may be that somebody who has already had X number of dates swoops in to get our choice town hill with all of its many Norfolkians ready to come out and, right, I don't know. It's just maybe part of the conversation regarding rain dates, and maybe the rain date, we go back to dueling breweries, which I really like as an idea and just think should happen at some point.
We have done that in other locations.
See?
We have an event in another town in September.
So,
Actually on September the 25th, ironically, where we are basically dueling it out with another brewery.
so anyway.
I mean, there's a lot of breweries out there these days, as you've probably
Well, that's
noticed.
a good thing. It's a good thing. Commerce and beer's healthy. So just don't drink and drive, folks. Just don't drink and drive. So yeah, so I don't have any more questions or comments. I think I'm ready to vote, and we can maybe put on another agenda, just sort of more ruminating about how to handle this. Kevin, any more comments?
No.
All right, so do I have a motion? I guess you're gonna have to amend it, a little friendly amendment though, right?
Yep, I think we can do it. I move that the board vote to approve the following uses of Town Hill. Norfolk Girl Scouts annual kickoff picnic on September 8th with a rain date of September 9th, not both from 5:30 to 7:30. One-day beer and wine license and entertainments for live music for 67 Degrees Brewing on September 11th, and for Zealous Brewing on September 12th and September 26th.
Awesome.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for bearing with us as we
Thank you.
struggled through something unnecessarily.
Thank you.
It was
Thank
good to
you for
vet,
your
right?
support.
Because the
Thank you.
issue is going to keep coming up, so I appreciate that.
Cheers.
Is-
Cheers.
Oh, cheers, yeah. Look, we should have roadies and an Uber drive us to it. No, that would be wrong.
That would
too,
be wrong.
So,
In so many ways.
but it would be fun. Now we're on to 9.
We're on to
Section 9.
road races.
Road
This is the new
races, okay.
topic.
Let's see how we're going to work off the beer that we're going to be drinking.
Unlike last year, we have road races again, and there are 3 of them. The Bike to the Beach for Autism on September 18th, for which I see the organizer, Mr. Sester, in the audience. And then the 31st Annual Rodman Ride for Kids on September 25th, and Heather's Hungry Turkey Trot for November 25th, Thanksgiving. All of these are in order. I will tell you, we spent a fair amount of time on the Bike to the Beach one, because when we first came into our office, that's town parade day and 150th anniversary a year later day and things on Town Hill Day, so it was a little like, okay. And also that some of the streets that are going to be biked on are going to be repaved this year, are going to be in some state of repair, possibly at that time. So, Police Department and DPW have worked with those organizers and come up with a appropriate route. I can go over with you if you'd like. And otherwise, all of the paperwork is in order for all 3 road races. Police and so on are approving of all of them. Their recommendation is approving of all of them. So I don't know if Mr. Sylvester has any comments you would like to hear or things he'd like to tell the board about, but he's the only one here, I think, to speak.
I don't have any comments unless the board has any questions.
I myself don't, because I understand that you guys have already done the labor involved in preventing, what was it? Was the movie Stripes, where there was, I mean, I know there was a problem with the parade and Stripes, but there was a movie where there was some sort of like a collision between competing parade and, it'll come to me.
Animal House, maybe.
This will
Maybe it was
happen.
Animal House. Yeah, that's what I meant to say, was Animal House, same era, but I'm not sure if Animal House it was
This will happen first thing in the morning, and the parade is not till 3 o'clock, and it's not coming near Town Hill, so we're not concerned about that. But we are, with the road race and all the events going on, there's certainly a lot of safety issues, and we wanted to make sure that one wasn't gonna take away resources from the other.
And that's all squared away?
Yes.
So I have no questions or comments regarding any of them myself. Kevin?
None on my end.
Anita?
Nope.
Do I have a motion?
I move that the board vote to approve the following road races: Bike to the Beach for Autism on September 18th, 31st Annual Robin Ride with the Kids on September 25th, Heather's Hungry Turkey Trot Run on November 25th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
You know, just keeping me on my toes, making sure I'm paying attention. I guess we're on to 10 then.
We are, which is to discuss the 150th anniversary parade. Paul Terrio's here to tell you all about what's coming up. I hear they've been
Festivities.
making great strides in their planning.
Thanks for having me on tonight. So we're pretty far down the road with the organization of the parade. As of tonight's date, we have in the coffers and committed funds of just under $17,000. I expect to have another $1,000 to $2,000. Our parade expenses currently are running about $15,000. We've not gotten a complete handle on all of the expenses because it's my understanding that DPW wants to charge us with some personnel expenses and whatnot. We're coordinating our efforts with the Norfolk Police, Sergeant Van Ness, Lieutenant Kelly with the Fire Department, Blair with the DPW, communicating with Matt from the buildings, and we've communicated with the library department, or the town library for the use out in front of the Little Red Schoolhouse, because we want to reserve that upper area for a premier viewing spot for our major donators. We've sent out an invitation to the select board to participate in the parade, and I don't think we've heard back from anybody yet.
They're all a yes.
Oh, they're all a yes.
You responded to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
just was waiting to,
Oh, you were going to
enlighten you
surprise
It's
me.
like a
Tonight.
grand
Okay.
reveal, apparently.
with good news.
All right, good news, yeah. On the political side, we have Representative Dooley will be marching with us,
My driver,
and
getting to and from, and
we have Senator Roush, who's they've committed, as far as I know, they've committed. We've got the paperwork into them as well. So, we probably have a parade that's going to run anywheres between an hour and a half and 2.5 hours long. Hard to say. We've got a number of vehicles with the fire department, in town, out of town. Med flight people are going to participate. Rescue vehicles. The police department has Sergeant Van Ness is coordinating Metrolec. I guess that's a association that he's involved with. We have Mitch, the community resource dog, that's going to be involved. We have some SWAT vehicles that'll be involved. DPW has committed to putting some vehicles in the parade. We've got outside groups, we've got sports groups, we've got, where invitations gone out to senior citizens if they want to participate in the parade and want to ride in a vehicle. I'm trying to coordinate that with the senior, elderly, Norfolk Housing, not Norfolk Housing.
Council on Aging.
Yeah, Council on Aging,
Yep.
thanks.
You're
Yeah. So pretty much that's it in a nutshell. A mailing's gone out. We have a banner that's been put in place that falls in compliance with the town's banner rules and guidelines. We've communicated with the other groups on Town Hill for the day, so everything is pretty much in sync as far as I know. If the select board has any questions, feel free.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
Well, first I have to comment that I just, and I know I'm on brand here, I love the in the square here, this rectangle on your flyer, that all events are self-supporting.
Correct.
But I just am making sure that, because I heard you, I just want to make sure that you indicated that through in the door or promised was 17 and change $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And with 15,000 allocated, I assuming, not necessarily out the door, but.
Oh, no, we've not, other than for the mailing, we've not sent any checks out to anybody yet.
And the postage for the mailing, it came out of that 15,000, so that's part of the 15,000.
So, we're coordinating our efforts with Recreation and Proto, and she helped us with the brochures, and we paid for the postage, so.
If the amount for, so you're at 15, and maybe it stays at 15, and that's great, and, but if the amount for the parade ends up at, say, and I'm just making up numbers, I have no idea what goes on with a parade, 25, and the most you get in the door is 20.
Yeah.
Who makes up the 5?
Yeah. Well, so far, that's not been an issue, so.
Well,
yeah.
I understand,
Yeah,
this is just a,
I don't have an answer for that, because.
I just want to be clear.
Yeah, yeah, from a expense standpoint, we've not seen anything to indicate that we're gonna be, over budget.
So you'll just make sure you're not over budget is the, right? Like, so if you're like, oh, Charlie, well, turned off all his lights when I went to pick up that $5,000 check he promised me, guess we have to cancel the med-flight helicopter, right? Like, that's how, I just want to make sure that other than if, other organizations in town are using their budget, right, for the parade in lieu of getting other stuff they may need in the future, that's their decision, but I just want to make sure that it isn't a situation where then we, as the board, are asked, after having been pretty much on message to the point of lots of comments about us and signs and all sorts of issues, that we've been pretty much on brand, that if there was money that the town had lying around, it would go towards other things than the parade. I just want to make sure that if there is a delta between the amount that's expended and the amount that's
So
collected.
far there is,
Not, between what's.
unless you guys are gonna throw something at us that we don't know yet.
I won't throw things at people. If there's a delta between what's spent
Yeah.
and what's brought in.
No, it's understood, and, clearly, as we go through the planning process, this not being an annual event, this is a one-of event, so.
At least for another 150.
Yeah, so, I'm constantly running the numbers through and mentally calculating out what the possible expenditures are gonna be, and I think we have a full handle on our expenditures.
Right, no, I just want, I am perfectly happy with the response being, because, right, there's only so many ways you can handle it. If your budget, if you're over budget, you have the option of cutting your expenditures or increasing the money coming in the door. And I'm just making sure that because you're gonna run out of ways of bringing money in the door, just as, the time sort of reaches to the event, that there's an understanding that you may have to cut the budget or pay for it some other way, and it sounds like you do, that because the money hasn't all gone out the door yet, so it's just been sort of allocated, so you can make those adjustments if you need to.
Yes.
That makes me happy. Also, the self-supporting makes me happy. Those two things make me happy. Kevin?
Nothing from my end. Great
Okay.
work.
Right, thanks.
I'm happy that you're doing the energy into celebrating our town in this 151 years,
Yeah.
and thank you for doing that and
It's
keeping.
a mixed message for the
I like
parade.
the message. You
Yeah.
should sell, I think you get more money selling t-shirts with that, but we already talked
Yeah.
about that. I know.
I think
people
you
be
could
like,
sell
"Ooh."
T-shirts.
Yeah, so on the T-shirt subject, that came up at our last meeting, and I think Donna Jones has effectively figured out a way that we're not funding lots of T-shirts, and we've sold some. And I believe, Donna, you're on Zoom at the moment. Can you explain to the board how people can order a T-shirt?
Hi, Donna Jones, parade committee member. There are people that are saying they remember our past celebrations in 1970 and 1995, and they still have memorabilia from those times. So I brought my shirt from 1995 and said, I think we should sell them. I have people interested in them. And parade committee hesitated. Should we commit money to something that may or may not sell? And recreation said, we'll handle it. So it's through the recreation website that you can pre-order for a shirt.
Have they been designed? Like, have you got the one? I'll go check it out.
Donna,
Yes.
how many have sold so far? Or pre-sold?
40.
Oh, it's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
It is navy blue shirt. It's got the town seal and the chest, the gold circle that has the Norfolk established and incorporated dates. And it's got like a waving ribbon of 150th.
Mark me down for 2 of them, Donna, please.
Is there any sort of 151 swag on the back in complete violation of copyright, but I won't tell? That's cool.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does.
So you just go onto the Recreation Department website?
Give me a minute, I'll get there.
Same place you would register for any of the recreation
Excellent.
activities is the place that you'd also buy a T-shirt.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
And they are being made by a Norfolk, being printed by the Norfolk company C&K.
Oh, they do nice. They do.
I
nice
think,
job.
Donna, if you hung them up in the lobby of the 2 schools, you'd sell a whole bunch.
Thank you.
Yeah, especially like, maybe you can't do this, right? But the 18th is, I don't know, with COVID, are they even going to have open houses or like, that first week where?
I don't know.
Probably not. I was going to say,
What's that?
like, well, pre-COVID, there would be open houses at the beginning of, sort of back to school events, a lot of which sometimes would be sort of after school or at when people are in their sort of buying zone, right? Like all the crap that ordinarily wouldn't think twice about, all of a sudden you're like, heck yeah, I want a $12 pencil. And so that's the perfect time to get them, right, with
Sure.
the T-shirts. But with Corona, it's just not clear that they would have those. But.
And Donna's done tremendous work and a job in pre-selling the T-shirts.
Awesome.
My biggest issue with the T-shirts was the timing. We're running very short of time, so, and not knowing what size range to buy, and so from a timing standpoint, it was a difficult, but she's done a great job with that. So.
Well, and some folks may end up the thing that's great about what this sort of portal or buying this, right, is you're not having to go out and buy 300 large and 300 extra large, and then you end up with them. And some folks may not be able to go to the parade or just won't wear it to the parade, but they will get it, and everybody seems to like their Norfolk flair.
And we actually moved to Norfolk in '96,
Oh.
but I have
you
I have
missed.
merchandise from '95 because I bought it at the library.
Great.
I have the Afghan and the sweatshirt because we were in love with Norfolk from the beginning.
Terrific.
Ooh, we see the nicest thing.
I would like to add that the website you need to order by a certain date so that you can have the shirt, guaranteed to have the shirt by the 18th. Working with the local vendor, we are able to make them afterwards.
Which is great because that can sort of, continue to offset costs that poor Paul Terry had to pay out of pocket.
Right.
That will not be
Gonna
happening.
slide it in there somewhere.
Careful, I still need him to post our warrants for town meeting, so.
Yeah, the billing rate just went up.
That was good. That made me, the thing about the portal, it made me think of something. It doesn't matter. It'll come to me later, and I'll hunt Donna down about it later. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Donna, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
thanks for having me on.
Thanks.
Look forward to seeing you there.
We will
Absolutely.
be there with bells on, rain
Rain
or
or
shine.
shine.
We'll wear a hat, as Cece said.
I don't know what. I didn't mean to say hat. Like it just came out. Just wear a hat. Jesus, the cranky lady in the middle.
The one with the Snickers.
Who hasn't clearly hasn't eaten any of them yet because I don't want to chew on camera. It would be rude. All right, we're on to 9. Am I? On
11.
11. Damn it.
Financial matters. So we're, in your packet are the fourth quarter reports for revenues, expenditures, and the transfer station. And Blair has stayed with us on the meeting to talk about the transfer station when we get to that. And overall, I think that I can state that we have good news to report.
Love it.
The revenue report for us was very good this year, despite a pandemic. Overall, our revenues are above our budget by about 1.2 million. Taxes were up. Excise tax for cars was about 225,000 over what we budgeted, which surprised me. I'll be interested to see if it stays that way, given the difficulty that people have getting new cars. I'm just going to hit some of the high points. Meals tax, that's only through the end of May, I think. So it's still going to be under budget, but not by as much as even I would have thought. An area where we were significantly under budget was in other department revenue. That reflects less, we weren't processing firearms licenses for a long time. We didn't receive really any revenue from selling parking permits. We didn't charge any fees for alcohol licenses, all those sorts of things. Just less activity in our various departments contributed to less of that. But then you turn to the next line item, which is licenses and permits, and it was almost 100% over budget and almost all in the building department. We were incredibly busy. We had the Cambridge Coatings full air permit, that was a significant one, so did very well there. And then some adjustments in the state aid. We received charter reimbursement was less, and some of the additional aid and exemptions were different. But on the balance, we also received more in unrestricted government aid than we had planned, and others. So overall, 1.2 million over. And then when you turn to the next page and you look at the expenses, you can see that we were at 97.7% of budget, so we underspent our budget, and that's good news as well. So together, that contributes to being to the good by just over $1.7 million for the year.
Lovely.
Now, we haven't closed everything out yet. We still have to go through the free cash process and certify that with the states. We don't know where we stand, but overall, I'd say we had unfortunately in some ways, but fortunately in others, a very good year from a financial perspective. So happy about that. Any questions about any of that?
I don't. I have an observation that I know I'm hungry because I saw stickers/bags and read Snickers. I was like, Snickers? What are we selling Snickers?
No Snickers for sale at the transfer
Well,
station.
So, but it did beg the question, has there been any sort of, there's still sort of this sticker bag kind of a thing going on, and
So,
because I misread stickers and Snickers, now all of a sudden I'm interested in what's going on with, and you see the chatter periodically, whichever group you're in, if you'll see the.
so I'm going to give you the 30,000 foot level, and I'm going to let Blair give you a couple of the details. he and I see this report differently. He sees the negative at the bottom and is disappointed that he didn't close it more. I look at it and I'm thrilled that it's down from last year, and
Which was what?
because I think our goal was, look, we're going to adjust these rates so that they're competitive in the marketplace, but we're not losing as much, and we're going to change from stickers on your own bags to having to buy them. And I think both of those together meant that last year we lost 107,000, and this year we lost just under 72. So while I wish it was, in the black, I don't think that was our absolute end game this year. And when you take out, in FY21, we had extra costs we budgeted for something called site services, which is chipping of brush we do once in a while. We had those leachate costs. If you take that out of the equation, because we don't do that every year, in fact, we're not spending some of those monies in the current year now, the loss really would have been 40,000. So Blair, can you give everybody a snapshot of what you saw happen with stickers, or as you call them, memberships, to the club, and memberships to the club, and what the transfer, the change from stickers on bags to our beautiful orange bags means?
Absolutely. So I would say that membership numbers were fairly even across the board from FY20 to 21. We were down 10 memberships, which is not much at all. As far as the rest of the numbers, whether it be with bags or the costs and revenues with bulk waste recycling materials, we did better in FY21 than in FY20. I think at the end of the day, we became more efficient. The bag program at this point, I would say, is a success. We've had those numbers are more in line with the cost that it takes to dispose of that. So I believe that all of those are really more efficient. The material sales that we've had from topsoil and mulch and some of those materials was almost doubled from 20 to 21. So I think overall, just a more efficient operation, and I think we're headed in the right direction with we still have some work to do.
I want to congratulate you. I do remember, I'm sure everybody, I'm not sure if you were here yet or not. I think you might have been when they came in, the group who'd done the audit came in and did the presentation about what we could do better with, so royal we, because I wasn't doing it, what we could do better with the amount of money that we were sort of hemorrhaging with the DPW, specifically with the transfer station. And so to see the tightening of that gap so quickly, I'm with Blythe on the fact that I think that that's an incredible change in a short amount of time. And now that things are tighter, there really is no place to go but make it even more tight. The two questions I had beyond sort of a kudos, one was, is there any other thing like sort of change in staffing, or are there any other changes that you attribute to the tightening or the shrinking of the difference between a net zero budget and the amount that we're under? That's question one. And when you say that we're down 10 members, do you have any idea as to why? And I'm not saying that you have to go out and like knock on doors and be like, why didn't you buy bags this year? But just sometimes when we lose customers, they're letting us know why we've lost them. And sometimes it's they've moved out of town, or they're tired of driving to the dump, or whatever. But some could be outraged that I can no longer put stickers on my own bags, or like whatever. I'm just curious why we've lost members in our bag program.
Yeah, I think, I think obviously last year being a COVID year, it's hard to, certainly an extraordinary year with regards to trying to compare it to years prior. So in FY19, we had just shy of 1,500. So we went up about 40 memberships, as it were, in FY20, and then with only losing 10 in FY21, that easily could just be the amount of people moving in and out of town.
So it's
as
not like
far
anyone
as-
called you and screamed at you and then hung up
Correct.
on you, and that was basically my question.
Well, because I was concerned, we raised the rates, and the first time we'd done it in
Yes.
about 8 years, and so we wondered if we would have people saying, well, heck, I'm going to go call a private one, I don't need to do this anymore. And I don't think that really happened, maybe in part because if you want to take advantage of dumping off your brush or, buying some of other materials, you have to be a member, and that might keep some people engaged that wouldn't have otherwise. I was actually surprised with more people staying home, we weren't paying to get rid of more trash. It seems like we would have seen that go up, but maybe when you had to put it in our orange bag rather than your different bag, that kind of evened itself out.
And it is difficult to gauge as well. So we know, obviously, throughout the year, obviously, there's a huge push in the beginning of the year in July and August for new memberships. But we do sell a few hundred throughout the year as time goes on. We are actually ahead of memberships this year versus where we were this time last year. So it is a fluid number. Obviously, COVID impacts all of that, but I think we're on par there.
So that's it for my, Anita, any questions, comments?
No, it's exciting.
I mean, I agree. I think this is fantastic. Changing the course of direction that we were seeing, 2-year trend is a victory in itself. How much more do you think that we can tighten that gap, Blair, from your perspective? Seeing what you've been able to do with this year and the actions that you've taken, how much more do you think that we can get this closer to balance?
Well, I was really, as Blythe had alluded to earlier, I was hopeful that it was going to be a little tighter than it is. But I think, with COVID being, such an impact last year, it's difficult to try to forecast as we come out of COVID, or if we stay in this same model that we've been in. It really is difficult to forecast. I certainly think there's more work to do. I believe that, the recycling market is just not going to get any better than it is today. That's a cost that, unfortunately, I believe is going to continue in the wrong direction. So I think we have to make up for it in other areas. One would be just to be accountable with bulk waste, to make sure that we're doing what we should do there. And as far as material sales go, I think a lot of residents, a lot of members do use that service, and we do sell a lot of those materials. But I think there's more room there. So with keeping an eye on expenses and what we pay out, I think there's definitely still some improvement that we can look forward to.
And as you remember, we lowered the budget for this from 422 and 21, and in 22, I think it's 378, because we don't have some of the site
Yes.
services this year, so that will help. I think really, if you look back over the past years, the trend really was because the recycling market fell apart. If China decided to start taking our stuff again, you would see those, and there was a market, we would probably be in the black. I'm just making a broad statement, it may not be completely correct, but I think that really was the biggest decline we've seen in time. We simply closed the gap by tightening up our procedure and charging a little bit more. I think we see how it's going for a year or two, and then we see whether we should adjust them again, but we want to be mindful of what it costs people. So,
Okay. Thanks.
thank you, Blair.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goals and objectives.
I know. 8:45.
So,
Just the time you want to dig into that, right?
Yeah, fresh as a daisy.
so I'll confess that Blythe reached out to me, about the agenda and sort of where did I stand on goals and objectives. And I had that sort of lower GI clench of the teacher asking me how far along I am on the final draft of my assignment. And not that that was how it was delivered, but just how I heard it. And I thought expletive deleted, but decided that we should leave it on anyway to figure out when it is that week in September would be a good time, like after people are back in school, when it is that a good time to put it on, to have a cogent discussion about our thoughts on the goals, et cetera. I mean, I'm not shutting down if people want to show off to the class that they actually did the summer reading, have at it right now, but I am just admitting I haven't yet done my summer reading, and so, I'm kind of just saying that that's kind of my feeling on it.
I'd be happy to kick the can just a little.
Let's hear what teacher's pet over here has to say.
I don't have anything either. I didn't prepare anything for tonight.
Oh my God.
No, I think that putting it to a meeting where we have a little bit more time,
Right.
not such a packed agenda, where we
Yeah.
have some time to dedicate to it would yield a better result.
Which is, and to be
the
fair,
goal.
Blythe was actually asking more in terms of the fact that it was really so heavy of a load today. But I thought that why not now talk about it and sort of acknowledge that we're putting it on, we're going to take it seriously and do our homework.
Sure.
Maybe put it in a little reminder to myself to get that done.
Right, and if there's something you want some work done beforehand that we as staff can do to help tee up the conversation, please tell me. All I've simply given you is the work plan. We did make progress on some of these things, and not some on others. So if there's something we can help with, let us know.
I think it's important work. It's not just a. There's some euphemisms that I can't say on public access, and so, but it's not just fluff, and so I'd like to take the time, but I'm also appreciative of the time to
Yep.
take.
So if we do like the second meeting in September, we're not neck deep into town meeting yet, are we?
No, I'm just
No,
going on
we
my
will
calendar.
be showing you a draft warrant at that meeting, but
So that might be, or the
That might
first
be.
week in October, first meeting in October, end of September.
yeah, it'll be the 21st.
I think September. I'm fine with either, but I think September 21st, because I do think that as we careen into October, we do end up getting a little bit more.
Right.
The first warrant, I think, is somewhat pro forma opportunity to ask questions. I would actually probably put the goals on before the warrant in terms of focus, right? Like important classes early in the day.
If we were doing this for the 7th, the agenda needs to go out next week, so it really
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
need
no,
to
I
be-
definitely, and the 7th, this one over here doesn't go back to school till the 9th.
I know.
Wow.
So,
I know.
right?
And I'm
That's what I'm saying. So let's,
Yeah, I'm going to North Dakota over Labor Day, so let's not do that meeting. Let's do it on the next
the happening
September.
hot vacation hot spot. Is that the one that Senator Thune is in?
Yes, I think so.
I sat at a table with him. I don't care what you think about his politics, just look at him. Pretty. He sat across from him at something, and I just was like, Sean was like, close your mouth. And I was like, who's your name again? It's very pretty. Anyway, so we're moving on then. By 21st works.
Yes, I think that's the.
Gives everybody time to get their thoughts together as opposed to their act together. So I know that's a good idea. I've been taking the ones that I want to noodle. So then the next one I'll speak on as well, which of course then I lost. Oh, no, I didn't. I did lose it and then I didn't. And so that's number 13. And so I will tell the viewer watching from home that, oh, and there's one in the audience, that we have been doing, I'm not going to say yeoman's work because, see section 12 in terms of what we've been doing for homework, but we did do a lot of work in the early part of the summer relative to creating a review process, and then began the review. And I was contacted by people, and it was neither pro or con, but there was some incredulity that we would be doing or engaging in the review of someone who has, as part of their job, the oversight or management of people and teams, and there were questions within the form for that without actually inviting comment. And my comment back, somewhat saltily, because that's how I roll, was like, how do I know that you're going to be, that people will be, fair or feel that they can speak freely versus, engaging in some tomfoolery. So the idea is, if everyone is in agreement, to basically take that same form that we did that has within it, I think, 3 or 4 management questions, and have somebody sort of along the same lines as that the consultant who went out to determine what everyone's rate scale and all that stuff was, and have them boil that information to the folks who are part of the team that we're judging how the team is managed. And that seemed like a fair, confidential way to get that information and then boil it into the review along with everything else that we see and experience. And Scott felt that he could do that pretty handily and turn something around so that we could be having this discussion again in, I don't know, like in October maybe. I wasn't really sure. So that's why it went from a grand reveal of a report to a discussion item farther down the list. Comments?
None.
Comments?
No, I think it's a nice step. I think when we did the work, the first 4 categories I felt had feelings about and was able to do, and then that last category I felt like I didn't have the data.
That's how I felt.
I didn't have the data to one way or the other, and so I talked to Scott about. I didn't talk to you about it. That would have.
No, that would have violated
the meeting laws. But I did talk to Scott about that and said, I don't have any data to say one way or the other about that. So I think that last category was somewhere before I took next steps, wanted more information.
Yeah. And I had sort of, I will say that I had basically done what I do when you get the interview. I get a lot, or in a smaller firm, I probably won't get as much, but I used to have like lists of people that I had to do their reviews, and I would punt and punt and punt, and then there would be a whole day where you're like trying to get through them. And the sections that I didn't know anything, rather than going out and hunting down the information, I would just say not enough information. And I, somewhat to a degree, had done that, and then was sort of approached with this, you didn't talk to anybody. And I thought, well, that's true. And so that's what I asked Scott. And I don't know if it was before or after, but that's why I think that this is a fair way of treating the review process. So, and Blythe has been wonderful in listening to me be like, this is what I was thinking. And she's like, okay, crazy lady. So she does it, that's her. She knows. So that's it. So that's, so now we're on to one thing that I wanted to perhaps jump your town administrator update wave, Blythe. It can be before or after. I'll let you guys duke it out. But I do know that Kevin had been to a meeting at the county level, and I forgot to invite him to speak on it at the beginning. And I do think that I want to hear what happened, but I also think we should maybe, I don't know, have you put something out or talk again, But, so I don't know if we can have him be part of your,
Absolutely.
like your buddy.
No problem.
Something, Kevin. How do you feel about that?
That's perfect.
All right, great. Take it away, Kevin.
So full disclosure, I did not attend the meeting in person, but I did review it after the fact and had some questions that I sent out. At a high level, this was the county's presentation on their plan for distributing the funds associated to the American Rescue Plan. They identified as part of this, I'll try to keep this pretty high level instead of going into the details, but they're going to be collaborating with 2 other counties, Plymouth and Bristol, for a tri-county approach to the process where much of the resources will be aligned and the process will be aligned. They are going to be using the same accounting firms, Clifton, Larson, and Powers and Sullivan. They will be using one law firm as well, which they have yet to name. The goals for this process will be to provide a portal that people can access to be able to submit their applications and to turn around the approvals and denials in a quick fashion. They're going to fortify the process with programmatic and legal compliance levels, handle all reporting and compliance responsibilities to the U.S. Treasury on behalf of the cities and towns, provide all funding to Norfolk cities and towns based on the 2019 census, not the new census that came out, but 2019, and to be a source of support and assistance to cities and towns throughout the process. They then outlined what the review process will look like when you do submit something within the portal. They're going to have a primary compliance review by the first accounting firm, Clifton Larson Associates. They'll have a second compliance review by Powers and Sullivan. They'll have a legal review. They'll have a final review by the county director, and then they'll have a final approval for the county commissioners for payment release by the county treasurer. Just a quick review for the purpose areas for these. You can use it for infrastructure, water and sewer, infrastructure broadband, revenue replacement, premium economic impact, and support public health. They envision that the most popular will be for water and sewer. The portal development is nearly complete. They're looking at ETA right now of availability for the third week of September, and then thereafter expect funds to start flowing in October. They did note that as part of this process, they will be withholding a 2.5% administrative fee. The interest that is being earned will also be used towards this administrative fee. And they're also going to be taking 0.5% for funds to support limited county projects. And if you look at the total amount of the grant, that equates to somewhere around $600,000, which is less than any municipality is getting as part of the distribution. That was really the high-level outline. There were many questions about how they'd be able to access the portal, what types of things they can use it for, more definition around the purpose areas. But that was basically it. I did have some questions that I had sent over related to the transparency surrounding how the funds for the 2.5 administrative fee will be applied so that we could understand kind of how that's being done more clearly. I haven't heard back on that yet. And obviously we'll hear about the county projects because that's something that's going to be discussed amongst the advisory board.
Thank you for. Do you remember, and you may not, what it would have been for if the state had done it? Remember at the beginning there was sort of a.
I think it was 25% they had talked about.
Right, it had been it
big
seemed a
number.
much more usurious amount. So while of course my little spidey sense is like 2.5, like it actually I think is.
Yeah, so we're supposed to get, by the math from the 2019 census, we should receive just over $2.3 million from the county. The 3% equates to about 69,000, so a little under 1,970,000. And then we've already gotten, the town has already gotten half of what was coming to us directly, so we're getting 1,256,000. We've received about 628 of that already is in our bank account. One of the good things that came out of that meeting separately is there's been a Norfolk County Managers group for a while. We're all talking to each other about, well, hey, what are you planning? Hey, what are you planning? What got approved? So we can learn from each other about what's likely. Lots of commentary today. What I'm hearing generally is along the lines of what we've been thinking about, which is we still have some ongoing COVID expenses, when the schools are here that we need to pay for. We just launched the public health regional group, and we've got some nursing expenses that weren't quite covered by that grant, so cover that. A new website to allow us to be able to do much more work transparently and remotely than we do today. And then water and sewer and stormwater are likely the places we're going to spend it.
Does Ernie know about this?
But there's also the infrastructure bill moving along through the federal government, and that may cover some of the things that this covers. So we're all trying to figure out where do we put our, where do we spend those dollars from which bucket to do the best work.
I imagine, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that of course you need to track the directive, but if you had 3 tranches and from tranche A you were going to spend money for the school, and also for certain other projects which limited the amount that you could spend on the school, and now there's these monies coming in to take out those other projects, like in terms of if there's folks at home in my imaginary audience at home watching thinks, well, what do I care about a website at town hall or stormwater? That's not interesting. But education for the children or sidewalks or whatever is, these kinds of endeavors free up more money for those endeavors.
They do.
as well.
And we're in the middle of, everyone submitting all their capital projects and thinking about what we want to fund, need to fund, where it can come from. So when we get to town meeting this fall, we have that figured out, and we don't have to spend these monies. We've got 3 years to do so with the ARPA money. So we may, nobody I've talked to of all the managers in the last day or two has really spent anything yet. We're all trying to still figure it out, and we know that we don't have to plan a project all today. If it's a real complicated project, then you might need to start soon because you've got to maybe design it, bid it, build it, and it takes some time. So that's what we're all working on.
One other interesting thing they mentioned to that point was that to optimize the grant resources, they would ask that there would be a release of the funds after year 3 for any balances that are not expected to be spent. So essentially, if you start getting to the deadline for the use of these monies, the county would be reaching out to say, hey, are you guys going to be able to use that? If not, we can try to look for other communities that might be able to.
No.
Yeah.
So when I was an assistant
That's my stuff.
DA,
I was like,
No
"Whoa."
dime will go unspent.
when I was an assistant DA, and I'm sure the budget still works this way, I just don't see it firsthand. The budget at the end, for most of the monies that came to the DA's offices, way back in the day, at the end of the fiscal year, July 31st, whatever it is, how many days it's in July, I don't even remember. If you hadn't spent it, it goes back to the state. And you would watch and it was very rare, right? But there was always some money that hadn't been spent. And the stuff that they would buy, and I'm not talking pool toys or trips to Vegas or anything, but all of a sudden they would be like, oh, we need 8,000 pens. No, you don't. There might be another community that needs something. Oh, no, we got to eat that. So you just maybe plan it a little farther out than that, so it's not quite as obvious. But yeah, I'm with you.
On the other side of that too, they made a good point and said, we imagine there's going to be a lot of communities who are going to be there on day 1 trying to submit and get it in, so there may be a lack of resources to be able to get some of these things completed and brought to fruition right at the start. So, if everybody's going to do a mad rush to get things done in and started right at the get-go, understand that there may be some lead time.
Oh,
that
there's
needs to
only
be
so
built
many people
into.
doing the paperwork.
Right.
I mean, for us, if we're gonna plan a water main replacement program, or a project that happens to be under a road that needs to be repaved anyway, and we can use these funds to do it, we don't have to necessarily do it this fall, we can wait to apply and be ready to do it in the spring.
Right.
So,
That's good. Cool, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And now back over to you, Blythe, since I
couple of
co-opted
things,
your.
if you've been down Holbrook Street Extension this week, you will have seen the building finally arriving for the well being installed. That's exciting. We're hoping to have it fully online, approved by DEP by early October. So very grateful. It's been a wet summer. Unlike last summer, it's been easy to get through that, but it's finally happening. And we landed a new employee for the Regional Health District this week. We have a health agent who will be starting. His name is Matt Tanis. He'll be serving Rentham and us as one of the key positions to replace Mark Orm, who's been wonderful but very, very, very part-time for us, to up our game in the area of housing code and food inspections and emergency planning and all that kind of good stuff. So excited about that. And I understand the nursing program is working out great. Janine and Lauren have been at the COA on Wednesdays, and that seems to be really taking off. So that's exciting. I am hot on the trail of a new website. I've talked to 7 different website providers. We're narrowing down the list to maybe 3, putting together a employee committee to really kick the tires of a couple of them and pick a firm and get going on a design, because it is an ARPA eligible project to go ahead and do that. So I'm excited about that. So much more we can do.
Levitating.
I'm excited.
That's
I am.
nice. It is a good thing. I'm just heckling because I like to heckle.
Yeah, so thank you.
All right, so there's some warrants that apparently need to get signed and also approved. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board approve 11 warrants for the period of July 16th through August 17th, 2021, as printed on the agenda for this meeting.
A second.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I don't think so.
Any discussion, Anita?
No discussion.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Please. Sorry, I didn't mean to say it. All right, it passes. And then, number 16. Do I have a motion on the one set of minutes in the?
Do you want me to take it?
No, it's okay. I can do it. I was just waiting for the break. Yeah, I thought there was something else coming after.
No,
that. Oh.
you would think this, but I lost my train of thought.
I move that the board
Yes.
approve the minutes of July 20th, 2021 regular meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do I have any other motions? See, maybe that somebody might wanna, anything to like maybe
Adjourn.
adjourn?
That one?
That one.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you guys and my imaginary audience.
Okay, no running.